Well, hello and happy Tuesday. It is digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you all back to Before the Four, where I take you through some of 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 p.m. newscast, which of course today and throughout NBC's coverage of the Paris Olympics is streamed right here where you're watching right now. So whether it's Facebook or the 48 Now live stream page, don't go anywhere because our 4 p.m. newscast will be right there shortly after Before the 4 wraps up today. And of course, our 5, 6, and 10 o'clock newscasts will be aired on television as normal. But anyway, thank you all for watching and spending a little of your Tuesday afternoon with me. Now, what's the best thing that has happened to you today? That is the question I'd like to know, so feel free to leave a comment here on YouTube. I can see so if you do, but with all of that said, why don't we just jump into today's top stories? And of course, we have to start things off. Let me pull this up for you all. And starting things off with some national news, this morning, Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris officially chose her running mate. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who you see on screen right now, was her choice. But who exactly is Governor Walz? NBC's John Croman has this answer.
Election night 2022. Governor Tim Walz could not contain his exuberance over winning a second term, moving past turbulent times of a global pandemic and civil unrest.
Democracy is live and well in this state. Well done.
Walz grew up in a small town in northern Nebraska, where at the age of 17, he joined the Army National Guard. He served in the Guard 24 years, all while embarking on a teaching career that in 1996 brought him to Minnesota, where he met his future wife and fellow teacher Gwen. He was still teaching geography and coaching football at Mankato West in 2006 when he ran for Congress in southern Minnesota's Republican-leaning 1st District.
Once in a generation, we have the ability to do something about it.
He unseated longtime incumbent Gil Goodneck and went on to spend 12 years in Congress.
Oh, good to see you.
In 2018, Walz launched his bid for governor on the theme of One Minnesota and made history by picking State Rep Peggy Flanagan, a member of the White Earth Ojibwe Nation, as his running mate.
The governor-elect, Tim Walz.
He defeated Hennepin County Commissioner Jeff Johnson that November.
We are one Minnesota, better together.
The governor, First Lady Gwen Walz, and their children Gus and Hope moved to St. Paul, where Walz set about leading the charge for historic spending increases on schools, child care, and housing.
I'm going to extend today the stay-at-home order until May 4th.
During the COVID pandemic, he aggressively pursued testing and vaccines, but took heat from Republicans for his stay-at-home orders and closing schools and businesses.
That's a greater risk.
And in the unrest after George Floyd's murder, Walz drew criticism for delays activating the National Guard.
This force going in there escalated.
He won re-election in 2022, defeating Dr. Scott Jensen, and worked with the DFL-controlled legislature to sign a host of bills, strengthening abortion rights, tightening gun control, banning conversion therapy, restoring voting rights to felons, legalizing cannabis, and providing universal free school meals.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And 48's Matthew King has been speaking with people here in the Huntsville area on their thoughts on Harris's VP pick. So make sure you stick around for what locals have to say coming up at 4. Now in Huntsville, let me pull this up for you all. Now in Huntsville today, a board denied the parole for a former UAH professor who was convicted of killing his wife. Now, Andrew Pakimov, who you are seeing on screen, was convicted of killing his wife, Yelena Zakin, back in 2009. He murdered his wife in 2006. Now, investigators say they found her body in the Tennessee River just 3 days after she was reported missing. Today, the board decided Pakimov is not ready to be released from the Red Eagle Work Correctional Center in Montgomery. He is currently serving a 45-year sentence. His next opportunity for parole will be in 2029. And 48's Callie Neese will be covering the parole board's decision today, and she will have updates for you all coming up at 4. And now in Marshall County, where authorities are still searching for a missing 18-year-old. Now, according to the Marshall County Sheriff's Office, 18-year-old Dominic Lager was last seen on August 4th around 3:30 in the morning. He was wearing a red t-shirt, gray shorts, glasses, and Skechers sneakers. He was last seen in the area of Lakeview Circle in Grant. Now, officials say he could be living with a condition that impairs his judgment. Officials also say he was last seen getting into a red mini vehicle with a New Hampshire tag that read THCAO. If you have any information about Lager's whereabouts, please contact the Marshall County Sheriff's Office immediately. And 48 Savannah Sapp is in Marshall County today working to learn as much as she can about the situation. So make sure you stick around for our evening newscast for any updates Savannah might have. And now in the Shoals, Sheffield police say a man who was wanted for killing a 16-year-old girl is now in custody. Police Chief Ricky Terry said 18-year-old Lamarian Bethany, also known as Ghost, turned himself in around 9:30 this morning. He is accused of killing 16-year-old Demilah Nixon on July 24th. Officers believe it was a drive-by shooting and that she was not his intended target. Officers say she was shot in the back once. Now, in case you missed it, it was a bad day for the stock market yesterday. The Dow Jones dropped down nearly 1,000 points. And yesterday, 48's Matthew King spoke with Huntsville financial advisor Brad Williams on the recent stock market complications. And let's take a listen to what he had to say about the situation.
The stock market's an emotional thing. You know, it's either fear or greed.
And as Brad Williams sees it right now, it's fear, with a sell-off dropping the Dow Jones more than 1,000 points. Economists believe this drop came from discouraging employment numbers last week. On top of that, the international markets like Japan aren't showing any signs of speeding up. Williams says this could be concerning for those closer to retirement.
One thing you have when you're young is time, and investing is all about time and risk. The more time you have, the more risk you can take. As that clock winds down, you don't have the opportunity of the years to recover. And so you may find that your retirement's not at what it was.
But as Jay McGowan with the Welch Group thinks, it's not all doom and gloom.
I don't think that what's going on right now is necessarily anything in and of itself to be afraid of. These things happen, but I think that it may be a wake-up call for people to kind of say, hey, I need to really understand my portfolio and what it is I own and why I own it and what it's doing for me in particular.
And for people not close to retirement, he says this may be a good time to look at creating investments.
For somebody, that's young in their 20s, 30s, 40s, that's accumulating wealth towards retirement, I wouldn't really be too concerned about what's going on right now. Actually look at it as an opportunity to maybe buy or rebalance your portfolio to take advantage of some of the downside volatility.
Thank you, Matthew. Now in Fort Payne, a new food city is all set to open. 48 Savannah Sapp has the details.
Days away from its grand opening, the new food city in Fort Payne has leaders excited to see its future impact. President and CEO Steve Smith says the 54,000 square foot supermarket will be the third in North Alabama.
We opened our first store in Albertville. Our second store was in Gadsden, and now we're filling in with the third store, which is going to be in Fort Payne.
Smith says the store's primary focus is fresh produce, meat, and bakery items. The store is the fourth major grocer in Fort Payne and could mean competition for other businesses. But Jimmy Durham with the DeKalb County Economic Development Authority says it will likely draw more people in, which means more dollars spent.
A lot of people get scared because, say, well, it's taken away from other businesses, and usually it has the reverse. It actually has a synergistic effect.
Durham says the store will likely be a draw for more businesses and industries to come.
When they see a big box grocery store, that means the local economy is booming, and that's what they want to be a part of.
But most importantly, Durham says it will provide more affordable options to those in the more rural areas of DeKalb County. He says many people who live out in the county drive many miles for fresh produce and affordable groceries.
And they drive to Albertville to shop because of the opportunities that store presented them as far as shopping product. But when you can cut that down to just a few miles, it helps everybody. It puts more money in your pocket
Thank you, Savannah. Some exciting stuff. Well, Hurricane Debbie is currently making its way north from the southeast coast. 48's Nick Ballinger spoke with a local group of first responders offering relief and supplies for those affected by the hurricane. Let's take a listen.
4 trucks, all prepped, packed, and prepared for the 9-hour drive to South Carolina.
We have some coming from Decatur Fire, Madison Fire, Coleman Fire, Arab Fire, Gunnersville Fire, Fort Payne Fire, and then we have one member also leaving from Marshall County EMA.
18 first responders from 6 different fire departments preparing for Tropical Storm Debbie's arrival.
It's going to be floodwaters for the most part is what they're capable of dealing with. That's what they're being tasked to deal with is floodwaters. Some places you go into, there's nothing left there. I mean, it's pretty much primitive. And then some places they have some electricity and have some places to stay. So you never know what you're getting into. It's like any disaster area.
The men will be there for at least 11 days where they could face 72 hours without electricity, running water, or shelter. All things they've prepped for. Back at home, Marshall County EMA is still monitoring the cleanup of 2 Gunnersville neighborhoods that were hit hard by a microburst on Friday. This is how Honeycomb Road looked on Friday, just a couple hours after the storm. And this is how that same road looks today. Marshall County EMA Director Blake Farmer says it could take until Saturday for everything to be fully cleared up.
Well, thank you, Nick. Now some exciting things are coming back to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center here in the Rocket City, USA. That's right. Today I got the chance to speak with Pat Ammons with the Space and Rocket Center as she spoke about the return of Rocket Row, the return of the Pathfinder shuttle, and of course, the return of Huntsville's unique space line. You know, some cities have a skyline, not Huntsville. Here we have a space line. That's right. And let's take a listen to what Pat Ammons had to say about the entire project to restore and revamp Huntsville's iconic space line. That was the first step of the return of the space line.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about Rocket Park and the rich history of the park itself?
Well, as I said, these rockets were in place before the Rocket Center opened in March of 1970. And back then, the Saturn V, which is now beautifully displayed in the Davidson Center, was outside too. So if people have a lot of memories of coming and visiting the Saturn V when it was outside. So this is all part of our legacy here in this community, and so many thousands and thousands of men and women in our community worked on these programs. So it's a wonderful tribute to that work, but also it's a history lesson too for how we got to the big beast that took us to the moon and the one that's taken us back. And part of this, once completed, fully completed, will be a memorial wall that is something the Marshall Retirees Association has done to commemorate those 22,000 plus people in our community who worked on these programs. So that's the next stage of this huge project. It's been an ongoing project for quite a number of years, so getting this far along has just been a really gratifying time.
Super cool stuff, and I'm incredibly excited to see it whenever it is finished, which shouldn't be too much longer. I think Pat said they plan to have it up by the end of the year. She said when you start seeing those big cranes off I-565, then you know something's going on. So super cool stuff. Now, obviously, the 2024 Summer Olympics are in Paris, and all those sports are currently the talk of the town in Paris. Let's not forget the rich food culture the city has as well. Many locals say their go-to for grub is a place you've probably never heard of. And as NBC's Savannah Sellers found out, it's been a hot spot for hundreds of years. Let's take a look.
The heart of many of Paris's neighborhoods are marchés, the French word for markets, where Parisians and foodies flock to buy the freshest fruit, vegetables, meats, fish, and cheese, or just watch the world go by. One of the most famous, the oldest in France, opened more than 400 years ago.
Welcome to Le Marché des Enfants Rouges. Let me show you around.
The first stop on our taste tour, Le Stand, a vegetarian joint where we find Tatiana grilling up today's special.
It smells amazing.
Thank you very much.
What you're making.
Thank you.
Tell me what you're doing.
So this is like a French toast, but with brioche. And we're gonna garnish the salty side with avocado, and for the sweets, with chocolate.
I just had to have a taste of this culinary creation.
This is so good. I love it. Everybody has to try this, seriously.
This historic market is home to the Butcher of Paris, a burger bar, and a land with his TikTok famous sandwiches.
Hello, what do you want?
He left his job as a psychotherapist because he wanted to feed the stomach and the soul.
I want people happy for when he eat my sandwich.
If cooking at home is more your speed, Marche d'Aligre may be for you. Founded in the 18th century, the building's roof is shaped like the hull of a boat. Home to fishmongers, meat sellers, and a shop to buy France's famous butter. Outside, a street where you can smell the freshness of the food.
What are you shopping for today?
I'm shopping for fruits and vegetables to make couscous.
Just down the street, Pierre is picking peppers for his 9 guests tonight.
Why shop here instead of in a supermarket?
Because it's less expensive.
The savings are nice, but so is the happiness food can bring.
Well, isn't that something? Super cool stuff, looks delicious. I think I'm gonna have to make my way out to Paris pretty soon. But now let's talk about the stories you're just not gonna wanna miss in tonight's evening newscast. The latest on a dedication ceremony held last Saturday at the U.S. Army Reserve Center to honor a Shoals veteran, a new overpass coming to Sheffield to help ease traffic in the area, and finally, the latest on Hurricane Debbie. These are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss in our evening newscast. And you're also not going to want to, you're going to want to stick around for the first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis to see how the weather might just pan out for the remainder of the week. Now, I believe it is time for Facebook Fun. And if you don't know what Facebook Fun is, just stick around because you are in for a treat. Today's Facebook question was, what was your favorite subject in school? I had a few I know some of my least favorites. I know math was definitely not up there as one of my favorites, but let's see what you all had to say. Steven Silver said chemistry. All right. Chemistry. I enjoyed chemistry. That was kind of fun. Thank you for commenting. Bonnie said typing and shorthand. I did take a typing class in middle school. That was a very good time. I did enjoy that class. But Bonnie, thank you for commenting. I think I write in my own kind of shorthand, just with symbols. But Bonnie, thank you for commenting. Ronnie Miller said PE. I gotta agree with you there. PE was my favorite subject in school, especially parachute day. There's just something about parachute day that was just different. It was only like twice a school year, but it was just always so much fun. Always looked forward to it. Ronnie, thank you for commenting. Adrian said math. He loves a challenge, and it sure gave me one. And math gave me a challenge too, but I cannot say I loved it. In fact, I think it was the complete opposite of that word. But hey, everyone likes their own thing. Adrian, thank you so much for commenting. And finally, Joshua Watts said lunch. And I think I take back what I said about PE. I think this is actually my favorite subject in school was definitely lunch. I enjoyed that so much. But Joshua, thank you so much for commenting. But that just about does it for today's Before the Four. I want to thank you all for sticking around with me and spending a little of your Tuesday afternoon with me. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 Digital News app, as well as the 48 Sports Zone app and the 48 First Alert Weather app. Turn on those push notifications and never miss a breaking story. And just a reminder, our 4 p.m. newscast will be right here wherever you're watching right now, whether it's YouTube, the 48 Now live stream page, wherever you're watching right now, make sure you stick around because that is where our 4 p.m. newscast will be. But anyway, thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you all have a great night, and you know how we like to end this right here. You all have a great night.